Subscribe because it's free.
The Galactic Council had always seen Earth as an anomaly, a species too unpredictable, too reckless, too defiant to be trusted among the stars. For centuries, they tolerated humanity's rapid expansion, watching with both fascination and unease. Then came the decree, absolute, irreversible. Earth was to be exiled. No human ship will be allowed to dock at any council control station. No trade, no alliances, no recognition. A galactic death sentence, enforced without appeal. The decision was made in the grand halls of the council's core world, where towering, ancient species cast their judgment. Humanity was labeled dangerous, primitive in their emotions, yet terrifyingly advanced in their ambitions. They did not conquer like warlords nor submit like vassals. They adapted, they learned, and that frightened those who sat upon the council's highest seats. A vote was cast. The verdict was unanimous. Earth was cast out, across the vast reaches of space. Human colonies received the message with disbelief. Trade routes were severed overnight. Diplomats, merchants, and explorers were detained, imprisoned, or worse. Fleets of alien warships blockaded human territories, ensuring that no assistance would come. The exodus began as human ships scrambled to return home, before the full weight of the Council's decree crashed down. On Earth, anger simmered beneath the surface. Political leaders argued, military strategists calculated, and the common people watched in stunned silence. The message was clear. Humanity was alone, but if the Council thought they had crushed Earth's spirit, they had gravely miscalculated. The exile should have been a death sentence. Humanity should have collapsed under the weight of isolation, its colonies left to wither, its people to despair. Instead, something else happened. Something no alien had predicted. A shift. The arguments that had once divided nations ceased overnight. The petty rivalries that had slowed progress were cast aside. A species once fractured by ideology, culture, and politics now found itself united by a singular truth. Survival was no longer an abstract concept. It was immediate, tangible, and very, very real. It began in industrial centers. Factories that had once churned out goods or alien markets were repurposed for something greater. Warships, modular stations, automated refineries. The knowledge humanity had accumulated over decades of interstellar trade was no longer shared. It was hoarded, refined, perfected. Technologies that had been restricted by treaties were revisited, and the innovations that had been hidden in the depths of classified research labs were dragged into the light. They worked in silence, not out of fear, but out of focus. Every engineer, every scientist, every worker understood that there was no room for error. The Council had not just exiled them, they had tested them, and humanity refused to fail. In the dark corners of space, deep within Earth's asteroid belt and the ice field of its outer system, ships moved unseen. They harvested, they constructed, they prepared. Earth's economy, instead of collapsing, adapted. What was once a trading empire became a fortress of self-sufficiency. There were no speeches, no grand declarations, just quiet resolve. The Council had turned its back on humanity, and humanity, in turn, disappeared from the eyes of the galaxy. But they did not forget. Whispers spread among the exiled merchants who had barely escaped the Council's purge. They spoke of ghost fleets slipping between the stars, of colonies that had vanished overnight only to reappear fortified and self-sustaining. They told tales of a planet that did not grieve its exile, but sharpened itself in the dark. Humanity had not been cast into the void. It had been set free. The silence of exile did not last long. Earth had no intention of fading into obscurity. What the Galactic Council saw as punishment, humanity treated as an opportunity. The galaxy had given them nothing but restrictions, limitations, and arbitrary rules. Now, for the first time, they were free to build without interference. The transformation was immediate. Factories that once catered to alien markets now operated at full capacity, unrestricted by trade laws or diplomatic agreements. Orbital shipyards expanded rapidly, constructing vessels unlike anything seen before, warships with reinforced hulls, self-sustaining colonies designed to endure the harshest conditions, and research stations dedicated to breaking every technological barrier that had once held them back. Without external oversight, human innovation flourished. AI systems that had been banned under council regulations were now the backbone of their industries. Genetic modifications, once considered unethical by alien standards, became a tool for survival. Fusion reactors, once monitored under strict treaties, now powered fleets designed to explore, expand, and, if necessary, fight. A new doctrine emerged, not of conquest, but of self-reliance. No longer would humanity seek permission. No longer would they compromise to appease an alien order that had cast them aside. The Council had forced their hand, and humanity had answered by turning exile into evolution. Leaders from every nation formed a unified command, not through diplomacy, but through necessity. Earth could no longer afford the luxuries of division. Military forces that had once been rivals merged into a single, formidable force. Economists and engineers redesigned entire planetary infrastructure to prioritize efficiency and expansion. The result was not a government, not an empire, but something entirely new. A civilization built on a shared understanding that they were alone, and they would thrive regardless. Beyond Earth, the colonies adapted. Some were lost in the chaos of exile, unable to survive without alien trade. Others, however, refused to fall. They cut themselves off from council-controlled space, going dark, disappearing into the void. These were the seeds of a new frontier, hidden enclaves of human resilience, waiting for the right moment to reconnect. Earth, now more prepared than ever, reached out, not with pleas for assistance, but with offers of unity. Colonies once thought abandoned suddenly found themselves supplied, reinforced, armed. The lost children of humanity returned, stronger and more determined than before. The message was clear. Exile had not weakened them. It had hardened them. For decades, Earth had been treated as an anomaly, a species that did not fit into the neat hierarchy of the galaxy. Now, it was something else entirely, an unknown force, moving in the shadows, preparing for the day when their presence would no longer be a mystery but a revelation. They had been exiled, but they had not been broken. They had been abandoned, but they had not been defeated. They were no longer part of the Galactic Order. They were something greater. The Galactic Council had not thought about humanity in years. To them, Earth was a closed chapter, a failed experiment erased from the cosmic stage. No more debates, no more concerns, just silence. But silence was never empty. It started with rumors. A supply convoy went missing along a distant trade route. A border colony reported strange signals before going dark. Pirates whispered of ghost ships appearing in the void, obliterating entire fleets before vanishing without a trace. The Council dismissed it as nonsense. Space was vast and accidents happened. Then entire sectors began to shift. Minor species that once relied on the Council's protection started pulling back their trade. Independent factions, long subjugated under Council rule, were suddenly emboldened. Black markets overflowed with weapons and technology that did not match any known manufacturer. Machines with brutal efficiency, designs stripped of aesthetic, built purely for function. Still, the Council refused to acknowledge what was happening. It was impossible. Humanity was gone. Their exile had ensured their irrelevance. And then the first message arrived. A single transmission, sent from deep in uncharted space. No threats, no demands. Just a statement, broadcast across every known frequency. You cast us into the void. We made it our home. Panic set in. Council fleets were mobilized. Orders were given. Entire systems locked down. But it was too late. Earth had returned. Their ships were unlike anything the Council had ever seen. No sleek, ornamental designs like the vessels of the core worlds. No fragile diplomatic envoys or mercantile fleets weighed down by bureaucracy. These were war machines, forged in exile, built with a single purpose: endurance. They did not fight like the Council's forces. They did not engage in long, drawn-out skirmishes or posturing threats. They struck fast, precise, and without hesitation. Entire enemy flotillas were wiped from existence before their commanders could even react. Trade networks, once the backbone of Council power, were severed overnight. Supply lines collapsed. Outposts fell into darkness. And yet, humanity did not conquer. They did not demand territory or enforce submission. They moved with a singular focus, targeting only those who had ensured their exile, striking only where it mattered. Every attack was calculated. Every battle had meaning. The Council tried to respond, but they were too slow, too accustomed to their own dominance to understand the nature of the enemy they created. Humanity had spent decades refining itself in isolation, breaking every limit imposed upon them. The aliens saw them as vengeful ghosts, appearing from nowhere, impossible to predict, impossible to stop. But they were not ghosts. They were survivors. They were builders. And the galaxy was beginning to realize that exile had not erased humanity. It had unleashed them. The Council's desperation grew with each passing cycle. The illusion of control, carefully maintained for centuries, was unraveling before their eyes. The species they had cast aside, the civilization they had deemed unworthy of the stars, had returned, not as conquerors, not as diplomats, but as something far more dangerous, a force beyond their understanding. The Council convened in emergency sessions, their chambers filled with voices once confident in their power, now trembling with uncertainty. Their fleets had been humbled. Their borders had been breached. The colonies they once controlled now looked to humanity not with fear, but with hope. It was not just warfare that had changed the balance. It was a simple, undeniable reality that humanity had surpassed them. Their technology was no longer second-rate. Their fleets no longer fragile. The Council's weapons were predictable, their tactics outdated, and their authority, once absolute, was crumbling. But humanity did not strike the final blow. They did not raise the Council's homeworlds or shatter their fleets in a grand show of dominance. They did something far worse. They offered a choice. A single transmission sent across every system, heard by every species. We do not seek vengeance. We do not seek conquest. We seek freedom, and we will never ask for it again. The meaning was clear. The exile had not broken them. It had freed them from the constraints of an outdated empire, from the bureaucracy that sought to tame them. Humanity had built something greater, something independent, and now the galaxy had a decision to make. Worlds that had once been loyal to the Council began to reconsider their allegiance. Species that had long suffered under alien rule saw an alternative, an alliance not built on oppression, but on strength. The Council had feared humanity's ambition. Now, they feared its example. For the first time in galactic history, the ruling order was no longer absolute. The tides of power had shifted, not through invasion, not through tyranny, but through the simple reality that humanity had outgrown them. And as the Council debated, as old alliances fractured and new ones formed, one undeniable truth settled over the stars. Humanity had not just survived exile. They had built an empire of their own.